Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So as I'm playing catch up on last week's news because I missed last week, there is a lot to talk about because last week was filled with a ton of news related to this Florida crash. I'm sure everyone is already sick of hearing it, but the thing is, as a result of this crash, a lot of things started happening. So today we're going to talk about all of the news last week, from the fact that in Florida they're going to station immigration and customs enforcement at agricultural stations or checkpoints in Florida, to the fact that some states might lose federal funding, and finally the fact that California and Washington now are risking losing their ability to issue or renew CDLs. So we're going to be talking about all of that today. Ready? Let's go. So let's start with August 25th, when the Attorney General of Florida, James Uthmire, announced the fact that he is urging the US DOT as well as the FMCSA to revoke CDL program authority and funding from states such as California and Washington, and also announced the fact that immigration and customs enforcement is going to be stationed at agricultural checkpoints throughout the state of Florida. But before the announcement, the Florida Attorney General actually sent a letter to Sean Duffy requesting two main things. Number one, he is asking for a more expanded audit on Washington State, because Washington State actually was the one who issued a full CDL instead of a limited CDL like they were supposed to. And an expanded audit means that he wants the US DOT and the FMCSA to look into both non-domiciled CDL issuance as well as regular CDL issuance. Number two, he said that if the audit confirms a pattern of practice of deliberately, recklessly, or negligently issuing CDLs in violations of federal law, he asked that California and Washington lose their ability to issue CDLs. Now, if a state's CDL authority is revoked, there are several things that happen. As I already said, number one, they are not able to issue new CDLs or even renew existing CDLs. Number two, they cannot conduct CDL testing. And number three, they cannot maintain CDL records or enforce federal regulations related to commercial drivers. So that is the part of the announcement that's related to these states. But we also have another part which has a lot of people buzzing on the internet right now regarding the fact that immigration and customs enforcement is going to be stationed at agricultural checkpoints throughout the state. So according to Overdrive, and I quote, "The agricultural stations will add enforcement points for English language proficiency and other checks that happen at Florida DOT wait stations and will serve as critical enforcement points to stop human smuggling, fraudulent documents, and unsafe commercial vehicles." Now, during that press conference, there was another gentleman. His name is Walter Simpson. He is the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Commissioner. He stated that there are 23 agricultural checkpoints along the Florida roadways. And he said that 100% of the Florida Agriculture Department's officers are certified in U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement that allows state and local law enforcement officers to perform specified immigration officer functions under ICE's direction and oversight. So this is what happened on August 25th. The following day, on August 26th, another article was released by Overdrive. And that article talked about how Sean Duffy made another announcement that 3 states are risking losing federal funding as they were somewhat involved in the crash that happened in Florida. Those states are, of course, California, Washington, and New Mexico. The reason they risk losing federal funding is because of their lax or even non-existent enforcement of English language proficiency. Now, before making this announcement, apparently the Department of Transportation reached out to the 3 states to ask, hey, when are you going to start enforcing this? And the 3 states responded that they don't really have a concrete plan of when they're going to start putting drivers who fail the ELP assessment out of service. So according to Secretary Duffy and the DOT, and I quote, The 3 states have 30 days to come into compliance before the department will withhold up to 100% of funding from the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. States don't get to pick and choose which federal safety rules to follow. Now, a side note, many of you know that I love quoting Overdrive, and a lot of my research comes from their articles. And the reason for this is because Overdrive does a lot of digging itself. According to Overdrive, and I quote this, California actually denied doing anything improper as it relates to the issuance of the CDL. Washington told Overdrive it's investigating the CDL issuance, the full-term CDL that they issued. New Mexico said it doesn't yet have an ELP testing policy in place, but will in September. But Overdrive, of course, is not the only party that did its own digging. The US DOT also conducted its own investigation, and this is what they found. So I'm going to read this off. Number 1, California. California has failed to adopt and enforce compatible ELP laws and regulations. And they found that from June 25th through August 21st of this year, of the roughly 34,000 inspections resulting in at least one reported violation, only one inspection involved an ELP violation resulting in a driver being placed out of service. Now, I'm going to put my own correction here because California actually issued 2 out-of-service orders for ELP. And as I said before, those are 2 officers, or perhaps 1 officer who issued 2 violations, who is very much in trouble right now. But to continue, notably, at least 23 drivers with documented ELP out-of-service violations in other states were later inspected in California, yet California failed to honor those violations or enforce ELP, allowing unqualified drivers to continue operating on the road. All right, next we have Washington. This is what they found about Washington. They have adopted the ELP regulations, they are just not enforcing it. From June 25th through August 21st of this year, of the more than 6,000 inspections resulting in at least one reported violation, only 4 inspections involved an ELP violation, resulting in a driver being placed out of service. Moreover, 2 inspections resulted in ELP citations, but the driver was not placed out of service, contrary to federal requirements. In addition, at least 4 drivers with documented ELP out-of-service violations in other states were later inspected in Washington state. Yet the state failed to honor those violations or enforce ELP, undermining federal safety standards and leaving dangerous gaps in enforcement. And finally, we have New Mexico, and they have also adopted the ELP regulation, but they are not enforcing it. There are actually 0 out-of-service orders for ELP, and New Mexico is in particular under fire right now because they were the one who inspected this particular driver on July 3rd. So the US DOT found that from June 25th to August 21st of this year, the state reported placing 0 drivers out of service for English language proficiency. This is what I found as well, and allowed at least 7 unqualified drivers already found unable to meet ELP standards to keep driving. Now, New Mexico is an interesting state right now, especially because late last week, Overdrive released a body cam footage that New Mexico shared with the public, showing the moment when they pulled over Harjinder Singh, right, for speeding. And when they released that footage, New Mexico said that this is proof that even if we were enforcing ELP, we would not have put this particular driver out of service for a lack of English language proficiency. And when people started watching that video, of course, there are now 2 camps. One camp is saying this is proof that this guy did speak and understand English proficiently, and another camp is saying this is proof that he does not. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts if you have watched the video. What do you think it's proof of? Does it show English language proficiency or the lack thereof? But anyway, that's not where it ends. These 3 states, California, Washington, and New Mexico, are not the only ones that are not really enforcing ELP. There are also other states. For example, Pennsylvania said that it's taking 60 days to make ELP enforcement a standardized process. But most shockingly, Florida. Florida has only one out of service order for ELP. Now, of course, we can't jump to any conclusions regarding why Florida has only one out of service order for an ELP violation because we don't have the data, but it is something that raises question marks. So yeah, guys, that's the news from last week. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on all of this. Wishing you guys a fantastic Labor Day, and I hope you have a beautiful next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.